So to begin at the beginning, what is a land trust anyway? I don't know about you, but when I first started working in this area, I really didn't know that much about land trusts at all. I hope that that's changing. I hope that people are more aware of the work that we do now in today's communities. But you know, I basically had a strong affinity for conservation and the outdoors, a motivation to help. I had a good feeling about what land trusts must be doing in my area, but more than that, I really didn't know. Um, at the core, what sets us apart from other nonprofit organizations is that we protect land by owning it outright, which is sometimes called fee ownership, fee title, or just fee. So if you hear people say, you know, land in fee, that's land that you own. It doesn't have to do with money, dollars. Or we protect land by virtue of our oversight authority in connection with private land that is protected by conservation easements, which can also be called conservation restrictions, depending on what state you're practicing in. Other organizations may overlap in some of the other work that we do, whether this be education, scientific research, providing recreational access. Sometimes we partner with others to drive conservation of land that we won't hold or hold an easement over or own ourselves. But land trusts pretty uniquely protect land that they find themselves then responsible for. This might include land in one community only or land across several towns for a regional land trust. It might be land with specific conservation characteristics, such as active agricultural land or land that protects drinking water or a certain watershed. While many land trusts may have started out by working on this one primary focus of protecting land, as I've alluded to, it's often the case now that we do many other things as well. So land trusts are engaging in making their protected land and the land around it better for all species. As I clicked through your websites and Facebook accounts in preparation to meet you today, I saw that so many are conducting or sponsoring scientific research or data collection about the condition of the land that they protect to engage the public and to drive better land management. So here, just to give a few examples, the Hanover Conservancy in New Hampshire posts about engaging high school students to restore native habitat by planting trees. And on the right-hand side, the Island Heritage Trust in Maine engages volunteers in learning about the invasive and harmful brown-tailed moth and how to destroy their nests before the caterpillars hatch. And I learned a little bit about the brown-tailed moth as well, having seen that. It's common to make protected land available for public use and recreation. And doing this is consistent with our missions to serve a public benefit and also helps engage the larger population in caring about conservation and the environment, building relevance and awareness. So organizations that own properties in fee, as opposed to only holding easements, which some of us do, generally seek to create opportunities to share them. So here we see examples from New Hampshire-based Monadnock Conservancy's Beach Hill Trails. And on the right are the beautiful Blue Hill Mountain Trails of the Blue Hill Heritage Trust in Maine. And in the center, let's not forget that public access can also include access to water as provided by the Wareham Land Trust at its Whitlock's Landing property in East Wareham, Massachusetts, which offers a convenient entry point into the Upper Agawam River for paddlers as well as fishing access. It's also common, either alone or with partners, to offer educational activities, again, to help connect the broader public to the environment and help them engage around taking care of it. And so here are some recent examples from Massachusetts' Hilltown Land Trust. Their program on wildlife cameras is happening this Thursday evening, in case anyone's interested. Moose Mountains Regional Greenways in New Hampshire is advertising its upcoming apple tree grafting workshop. And in Maine, the Harpswell Heritage Land Trust makes its lending library so adorable, available for those who wish to learn more about the flora and the fauna they are likely to encounter outdoors. The list goes on and on, Land trusts are finding new ways every day to get people involved and caring about the environment, while at the same time providing a wonderful service by making spaces and events for people to connect around the outdoors, even in winter. So, like this creative way on the left that the Southeast Land Trust of New Hampshire found to celebrate the winter solstice with lots of glow sticks to ward off the darkness. And the varied activities, outdoor activities hosted by Maine's Down East Coastal Conservancy on Down East Day in the middle. And as we look forward to warmer weather, we can also look forward to outdoor yoga with Massachusetts's Littleton Conservation Trust. Most recently comes a new awareness and commitment to social justice, equity, and inclusion for all people. I want to call out the Western Foothills Land Trust in Maine for its all-access trails at the Roberts Farm Preserve. Their Maine colleagues here on the left at Arundel Conservation Trust also manage some great all-access trails, including those made especially for mountain biking. The Metacomet Land Trust in Massachusetts partners with its local community on affordable housing. And the Society for Protection of New Hampshire Forests on the right-hand side here is amplifying the voices of Black Americans in its programming, including in its annual meeting. I was really interested, I'm sorry, I just saw this, so I have to point it out. My mother follows the Arundel Land Trust. Who knew? There it was, Arundel Conservation Trust. So how do land trusts work together? You might be asked, or you might wonder yourself, with so many organizations working on similar things, how do they fit together? We're going to take a few minutes to hear from the leaders of the Land Trust Service Centers in each of your states to describe their membership communities as well as their work and their service offerings. So I'm going to pass the floor back to Rob to talk about the Massachusetts Land Trust Coalition.
Hi, everybody. For those of you from Massachusetts, hopefully you're aware already, but the Massachusetts Land Trust Coalition is a member-supported nonprofit that exists to provide education, tools, training, and advocacy for land trusts and our conservation partners around the state of Massachusetts. So we're powered by 1.3 staff people, myself, part-time executive director, and Barbara Krenko, who's our operations manager, also part-time. And we have a great board made up of folks from land trusts and other conservation, partners. I just put 4 things here I want you to know about. At the top is our e-news. If you're not already a subscriber, please go to that page of our website and subscribe. That's one of the best ways to stay connected to what's going on. Also, a little less, some people are a little less well known, I think, but very powerful tool is our land protection listserv. This is a kind of a occasionally something will get posted there, which is a question or a query to peers, and it's a generous community of land conservation peers who are happy to share their advice and their experience if you post a question. So just lurking on this listserv, you'll learn a lot, and sometimes it's going to be over your head, and other times it won't be, and you'll learn a lot. And the next one is the conference. So we put on an annual conference, which typically happens on a Saturday in Worcester in late March. But this year, once again, it's a virtual conference spread over 3 days. Going to be a full plate. So registration's open right now. We're excited about the workshops. And this year, for the first time, we're doing field trips. So we get some outdoor walks and talks, chance to be together in person, and there's 9 of them happening from Cape Cod to the Berkshires. And lastly, we do these education programs throughout the year, including this one that you've joined us for. Some of them are multi-session learning collaboratives like this one. Some of them are one-time seminars or networking conversations. We're having a networking conversation this Thursday about racial justice initiatives within your land trust. So take a look at our website where you can find your way to all of this and much, much more. And reach out to me anytime if you have questions or want to know how to connect. And we'll pass it on then to...
Didn't go forward. Hold on. There we go. So I want to pass the mic now to Amanda Stone, who will talk about the New Hampshire Land Trust Coalition.
Sure. Thanks, Connie. So I'm Amanda Stone with UNH Cooperative Extension, not your usual person working with the Land Trust Coalition, but I actually started this group we started developing it in 2010 and they launched officially in 2012. So I stayed engaged to the education and outreach group. And we operate slightly differently, although we did base ourselves on, we drew from Maine, Massachusetts, and Connecticut in developing the model for New Hampshire Land Trust Coalition. We have a board of 10 members, 10 board members. And education and outreach is really our primary focus. It's what we do the most of. And we have a committee that meets monthly and plans a lot of professional development and networking events. We've just had our winter workshop and annual meeting last week. We have every February. And then we also have a fall workshop as well. And then in addition to that, we do various other events, collaborative workshops such as this, which we love doing, connecting with our neighboring states. We did the Climate and Conservation Series with Land Trust Alliance, Open Space Institute, and Maine Land Trust Network. Gosh, it was a few years ago now, I think, Whit. And then we've started doing these, what I highlighted in green. This is kind of our adaptation to COVID, where when we weren't able to have in-person meetings, we're still doing everything virtually. We started water cooler informal discussions around conservation topics, which were not so much presentations as people getting online and then having facilitated discussion and exchanging ideas and perspectives. And then something is relatively new that we're just starting out on is the water bottle version, which is field trips, because everybody's missing that in-person connection. And so we're working on getting smaller groups outdoors, not quite yet. It's kind of a bit cold and icy still, but as spring comes around, we'll have opportunities for smaller groups of land trust folks to get outdoors. And hopefully some of you board members from New Hampshire on this call will be able to take part in some of those. So take a look at the website at the top of the page in orange, nhltc.org. You can sign up for our email announcements, which is a broader email list that includes people from other conservation organizations as well. And then the listserv, similar to Massachusetts, is primarily used by land trust professionals with some really great discussion around issues that they're dealing with and getting input from others. It's very responsibly used. I think land trust folks are very responsible users of listservs. You don't get inundated with emails just when people have something to discuss. I always learn something new through that. And then you can join the Land Trust Coalition as a partner or member. Your organization may already be a member. Land trusts are members, and then partners are others such as consultants, conservation attorneys, and others. And then lastly, but not least, the Saving Special Places Annual Land Conservation Conference is kind of, it's partly a land trust coalition, but it comes under the UNH extension umbrella. So I'm the lead for organizing the conference together with a conference committee and a couple of other staff from UNH extension. So that's a service we provide to the land trust community. It was originally started way back 20 years ago through the Forest Society. We took this on in 2010. So the Land Trust Coalition is an underwriter of the conference. And our conference is coming up. It's another virtual event again this year on April 1st and 2nd. If you missed Carolyn Finney at the Forest Society annual meeting, we'll be featuring both Carolyn Finney and Robin Wall-Kimmerer. Robin on April 1st, Carolyn on April 2nd. We decided to really change it up for our virtual format and go 2 keynotes this year. So I think that pretty much covers it from my end.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. Okay, and then now we're going to switch to hear from Warren Whitney, aka Whit, to tell you about the Maine Land Trust Network.
Great, thank you, Connie. Hi, everyone. Again, Warren Whitney, or Whit, from Maine Coast Heritage Trust, and we help coordinate the Maine Land Trust Network. And MLTN is essentially an association of Maine's 85 land trusts. It is supported and staffed, if you will, by 3 of us from Maine Coast Heritage Trust, and then includes all sorts of partners and communications and networking amongst all these groups that help make up conservation in Maine. Connie, if you could go to the next slide. I cheated with 2 slides. And I just want to highlight a few things for you to know about, especially if you're a new board member in Maine for a Maine Land Trust. Our website is mltn.org, and that includes resource listings, lists of consultants, document templates, sample easements, all sorts of things like that. So it's a really valuable resource to let you know what's going on and provide you with information. We have a very popular job postings, about 40 or so jobs out there right now. Don't let anyone tell you it's not a good job market for in general and in conservation. There's a lot going on. It also, like in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, we have an e-newsletter. We call it Info Line, and you can sign up for that at mltn.org. And we send out a newsletter, e-newsletter. It goes out to about 2,200 people about every 2 to 3 weeks. It varies a little bit, but with events and grants that are available, things going on. So it's a good way to keep abreast of what's going on in conservation in Maine. Another key resource is our public policy work in Augusta. And Jeff Romano, who you see in the middle of the screen there, is kind of our guy in Augusta, and he is always on top of good legislation, bad legislation, land for Maine's future, whatever's going on there. And we'll send out, he will write legislative alerts. If there's things where we need your help, we need you to call your legislator, and we'll contact you that way. There are a number of ways that we help you connect with each other and with us. Like the other states, we have a member forum, so you can sign up for that at mltn.org. We have the annual conference. This is part of that this year, and then we have throughout March a number of virtual workshops. In the old days, before when we were still meeting together, and hopefully again soon, that was a conference with about 400, 450 people. So it's a great gathering once every spring. We also have monthly phone calls on a variety of topics, kind of whatever topic comes along. We don't do it every month, actually. We skip August and December and then March because of the conference, but most months we have kind of a monthly call. And then we also have regional meetings in the fall where we bring land trusts from different groups together so you can talk with each other. But most importantly, the thing I'd really like to emphasize is if you have a question, you don't understand something, you need to know where to go, you need to connect with a land trust who maybe has experienced something, call us. Call Donna, who's super helpful, who works with me, call Jeff, or call me, and we'll connect you with the people that can help you out. We don't always have all the answers ourselves, but essentially our job is to help you. We don't do land deals ourselves. We're not out stewarding trails or anything like that. Our job is to help you, the land trust. So give us a call. The phone numbers are on the website, mltn.org. You can email us. Those contact information is there as well. Thanks again, and thank you, Connie, for giving us the opportunity to tell folks how to connect with us.
Sure. Awesome. Thanks, Whit.
And I just wanted, Connie, just wanted to add one thing. This is Rob again. I posted a document to the chat, which hopefully you'll be able to open that and save it. Some people have trouble with those PDFs posted in chat. If you don't get it, feel free and drop me a note and I can email it to you directly. But it's just a kind of a glossary of terms for conservation in Massachusetts. Much of it is actually relevant to our neighboring states as well, but there's a few, definitely a few Massachusetts specific references in there. I just wanted you to have that. Thanks. Connie, we can't quite hear you.
Oh.
Something's maybe not coming through on your mic. Let's see. No, I'm not hearing that. Are other people having trouble? I don't know if, let me see.
Yeah, I can't hear
Yes.
her.
Okay, bear with us a moment while Connie works on her mic.
Gotta love technology, right? We can avoid weather issues when we're virtual online, but we can't avoid technology issues.
Okay, she's gonna disconnect and call back in just a moment. Hopefully that'll fix the problem. Bear with us. This might be a good time to invite people to post questions, as we suggested that you can post questions by putting them in the chat. If you have something that you came to this series or to tonight's session in particular, wanting to get out of it, or a particular question that you have, certainly invite you to enter any of that in the chat. As we get into questions throughout this 5-session series, you can either use the raise hand feature or put your question in the chat.
So how about now? Can you guys hear me again?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
I think that what happened is somebody texted me and it glitched somehow. So I appreciate your patience, and I'm really glad that we were able to fix it quickly. So anyway, just this slide is just a few additional resources that I've found helpful for board members. I hope that you all know that the Land Trust Alliance, which has a fairly good website, is ready to help land trusts across the nation. They sponsor the Land Trust Learning Center, which you can get to off of their website. And I've put a link here, so when we share out these slides after tonight, you can use that hyperlink if you'd rather do that too. I find that the independent sector, Board Source, Blue Avocado, all of those sources are really good for nonprofit board work that is not particular to land trusts. And we'll talk a little bit more about that work in the next couple of slides. Okay, so we're going to go much deeper on board responsibilities and board governance next week, but tonight, just to provide a little background on why we're offering this course, many people join a land trust board because they like the activities of the land trust. They enjoy pulling invasives or making trails or interfacing with the community at hikes or events. But these ways in which you might be involved, and which, by the way, are absolutely critical to a nonprofit organization with limited staff, like an all-volunteer land trust, these activities are distinguishable from your board service, from your responsibilities as a board member. Serving on a nonprofit board means that you are ultimately responsible for ensuring the organization's financial stability and that organization pursues and succeeds in its mission. You have actual fiduciary duties to the organization and to the public in connection with your board service. And though they sound like layperson's terms, the duties of care, loyalty, and obedience have legal meaning and may be actionable if you fail to uphold them. So before you all get too nervous, in return for agreeing to fulfill these duties, nonprofit law and directors and officers insurance do provide some relief from legal liability so long as you do your best and in good faith. So that is kind of giving, the main rationale for why we do a series like this. The next 4 weeks, we'll be learning about land trust operations through the framework of the land trust standards and practices, and how your board service relates to the broad scope of land trust activities. The standards and practices are a body of guiding principles that are sourced from the land trust community and codified and maintained by the Land Trust Alliance. First published in 1989, the standards and practices have been revised several times as land trust practice evolved, and the last revision came in 2017. So the image here on the right is the cover of the latest edition. I put a link early on in this meeting to the standards and practices in chat, and Rob assured me that he'd try to copy that so that it appears again for those of you who want to bookmark that. There are 12 standards in the standards and practices, each addressing a different topical area. Each is then further broken down into practices and then further broken down into bulleted elements. It's a lot of material, and it's really difficult to get through cover to cover. And yet, it's organized, and it makes sense wherever you dip in. To me, the most impactful thing about the standards and practices is that they've given us a common language. So we have a way to connect around things that we're all doing, like board recruitment, financial reporting, donor acknowledgements, and annual property monitoring. So we're going to use the standards and practices to go through this series. As I said, it's a lot of information, but it is well organized, and the standard groups basically divide into two parts. Things that relate to all nonprofits and things that are special to land trust work. So the first 7 standards are all nonprofits. The latter half of the standards and practices are really particular to land conservation. And from there, they really break into 4 what we like to call buckets of practice. And so those are in the all nonprofits, half of the standards and practices, governance and financial management. And then in the land trust particular specific parts of the standards and practices, land protection and stewardship. So those buckets break down pretty well, and that is how we are going to organize the next 4 sessions. So, all right, we're going to give you a chance now to talk to each other. Rob's going to tell us how these breakout rooms are going to be organized, but we put a question, a pretty general question, you know, what are you feeling are your most pressing needs or your questions that are relating to your land trust work? And when we come back, we're going to give you a chance to share those in kind of an online format, but hope that you have fun connecting with others in your state about what's going through your minds now as we start this series. Okay, so Rob, I'm going to pass to you, and I think that we can take 10 minutes to do the breakouts.
Okay. And I just want to point out that, Connie, while you were out, I invited people to type in some of what they were hoping to get out of this session. And Barbara actually typed in something that's very germane to the small group discussion. So she can talk a little bit more about that in breakout. So what I'm going to do here is, again, and Connie can introduce this next piece.
Great, thanks. Well, I hope you had some fun in the breakout rooms. I hope you were able to make some connections with colleagues that you may not have had before. Rather than have everyone report out, which in a room of this size can take a long time, we are going to try yet one more piece of technology. Some of you may have done this before, but this Menti site is a way of collecting a lot of feedback at the same time and showing it to everyone at the same time. So I'm going to ask you if you would try to click out of your Zoom for the moment, or minimize or do whatever you do to to access other applications on your computer. Go to www.menti.com. You can use the link that's in the chat to take you right there. And then key in this code 12073810, and you should have in front of you basically this question: what are your most pressing needs or concerns related to your land trust work? And you can type in an answer, and as people are answering, we should see them start to pop up on this screen. So we're just going to give you a couple of minutes to add your feedback. If you have more than one concern, you can answer more than once. So, let's fill it up. Really interested to know, what is of most interest to you. Great. You can see them start.
So if you should be able to just click on this link in the chat. It didn't even require me to put in the access code. So if you see that link in the chat, those of you who are able to click on that, and that's how you get into space where you would type the question.
And then once you make your comments, come back into the Zoom because you'll see how they're starting to populate the screen. I'm seeing succession planning, digitizing records, maintaining 700 acres with a small volunteer board certainly can be a challenge. You know, making that transition from being an all-volunteer land trust to having your first staff person, recruiting volunteers, fundraising, you know, things related to, you know, to what it means legally when you have a conservation easement, you know, how to be financially responsible, but also grow. Finding new board members was always a challenge. Management plans that can be carried out by volunteers, strategic planning, board and staff working relations, who decides what, and delegation, and just finding that kind of communications chain, how to encourage young people to be involved in a land trust. Broadening donor base. I'm seeing young people come up a couple of times. Fundraising, you know, a theme.
How to welcome and
Legacy.
educate new board members. That's a good one too. It's like, how do we orient new board members when, you know, we may get one or two at a time? How do you begin to ground them in all that there is to know?
Yeah, so these are really good comments. Or strategic planning. There's a lot that I'm seeing that is related to our governance session, which is happening next week. I'm going to give it just a minute more. This is really wonderful. Thank you so much for your feedback.
And one of the benefits here, Connie, is that you can save all of this.
I can.
Yeah.
I'll have it for sure. Pretty nifty, don't you think?
Yeah, this way you kind of know what people have on their minds.
Yeah, and that's great.
Cool. Well, it
Okay.
looks like most people found their way eventually into it, which is great. 'Cause it looks like 73 people are in it, which is virtually everybody. So
That's
great.
awesome. Okay, well, I am going to move us to the next slide. As fascinating as this is, I'll study it later. But we just wanted to close by giving you a little preview of what's coming up. So as I had mentioned, next week we'll have session 2, which deals with the governance bucket. All those questions about board training and strategic planning, that's the place for us to attend to those matters. Conflicts of interest, I didn't see that one come up in the Mentee, but that's a big part of session 2. Session 3, March 1st, will be about financial management. So those are, again, that half of the deck of standards and practices that deals with things that are common to all nonprofit organizations. Sessions 4 and 5 are going to be those ones particular to land trusts. So March 8th, we will do land protection and everything that goes into selecting projects and doing the due diligence to put a project together and see it through to closing. And then session 5 on March 15th will be the stewardship bucket for all of your questions about monitoring, about baseline documentation reports and management plans, and what to do when you find an encroachment on an easement. So, you know, these topics are pretty meaty. They are going to be a little high gloss. I do want to make sure that we also have time for your individual questions because they will come up, I think, with all of these buckets. And so that being said, I am going to stop the share, and we've got 4 minutes left in our hour. And if anyone has got any questions right now, I would invite you to raise your hand before we close, and then we'll see you next week. So you can use the reactions button down on your toolbar to raise your hand. Douglas, I see you have a question.
I just wanted to, I really like, is it Tom Mullen from MLTN? I really like this thing in the chat. That would be a great thing if there's someplace where that can be talked about.
You see
Oh.
that, Connie, right? You can see that, Tom's comment, Connie, in the chat?
Yes,
Okay.
I do. Yes, great. Thank you, Douglas, for calling attention to that. And thanks, Tom.
One thing I feel the need to say is that each of these topics is like massive in its own right. You know, each of the weeks focus. So in a way, hopefully people will end up feeling there's a grounding and an overview of the topic that gives them a handle for some of the additional learning that will happen, including at the conferences, which are such a great opportunity to go a little deeper. But hopefully we can get a fair amount done in the next 4 sessions together. One thing, a couple of questions logistically came up in the chats, and some of them to me individually. People asked whether we'll share the slides, and we will. I'll also send the recording in a follow-up email, but I'm not sure if, I think it should be available within the next 24 hours to me so that I'll wait for the recording to be available when I send a little follow-up, include the slides with that. Somebody asked if we'd be able to share the names of the participants. And I think what I might do is just send a note out to folks asking if they're okay with that before I share your info without your consent. And that's my logistics for today.
I was going to ask, sorry.
Go ahead.
I had raised my hand, but put it down. But instead of, or in replace of the names and like contact list, will you also provide like the organizations, so we could see like different formats of websites? And a question I had was also, will there be a focus on how to like advance the organization using technology in some way? Will you also get into like approaches to surveying land? So I'm sorry if that was spoken and I didn't pay attention, I guess, because I have very high attention, or low attention, should I say. But overall, just thinking of how to integrate technology into the organization, how to survey better using technology, advancements in technology. And also, if you could answer about the organization list so we could see different websites.
So I'm going to let Rob answer the question about the organizational list. We're probably not going to go as deep into the weeds as talking about technology for land trusts, and that is only because these topics are so broad, as Rob was saying, so they're really designed. I'm going to go back to that distinction between the things that you're doing for your land trust that are, more along the lines of what personnel, what staff would do or contractors would do, and that the distinction between that and the things that you need to know as board members who are responsible for the oversight and financial management of an organization. So we are going to really keep it to, if you were a board member of a land trust that had staff, what would you need to know about the logistics and the operations of a land trust? Knowing that there are many of you that are working with all volunteer land trusts, we may dive down a little bit deeper, especially in response to your questions. But it would just, we could have a class every week for half a year and probably still not touch all of the topics that we might touch if we were going to do, the whole gamut of what staff do for land trusts. And that, when I say staff, I do mean some of you working for AVLTs, but it's just not, we're not going to be able to do that within the scope of this course.
Yeah, and I think it's totally possible to share a list of all the land trusts with their websites. That's going to be happy to do that. Yeah. So watch for that too. Great. Okay, well, we've reached the hour, so probably we should let people go. Any last words, Connie?
No, I'm reading the chat. I'm taking advantage of the time while you talk to peek into the chat. So
Yeah,
thank you all for your attention tonight. I hope that it was fun to see, the diversity of what goes on and these organizations that you have been, so gracious to offer your time and expertise to. And I look forward to seeing you next Monday.